imminent arrival of Donald Trump in the White House has already been shaping global economic policy making. This week, the US Federal Reserve flagged fewer rate cuts and other leading central banks signalled caution over their rate paths too. The Fed cut rates as expected on Wednesday, but accompanied the move with a message that the incoming Trump administration gave cause for caution. The sentiment was echoed by its counterparts in London, Tokyo, Frankfurt and elsewhere. The repeated urging of caution around further rate cuts triggered a slide in stock prices. Just a single Fed rate cut is now priced in for 2025. As expected, the Bank of England kept its main interest rate unchanged at 4.75% on Thursday. It said it needed to stick to its existing gradual approach to cutting rates. In Japan, the central bank has kept its ultra-low interest rates. The threat of Trump's policies has cast a shadow over the export-reliant economy. A Reuters survey of Japanese businesses recently showed nearly three-quarters expect Trump to have a negative effect on their operating environment. Norway's central bank held its policy interest rate unchanged at a 16-year high. It's highlighted the risk of a trade war between the United States and China. While Sweden's central bank has said it now sees reasons to be more cautious about cutting rates in early 2025. The European Central Bank's president, Christine Lagarde, was vague about further rate cuts when she spoke this month. She went out of her way to emphasize downside risks to growth, including from prospective trade tensions with the US under Trump.
Donald Trump's promise of sweeping tariffs has Japanese exporters worried. But that may not be their only or even biggest worry. Hiroyuki Ogawa is the chief executive of Komatsu, the world's #2 maker of construction machinery after America's Caterpillar. His firm makes a lot of its gear in the US and actually exports more from the country than it imports. That makes other countries' response to Trump's trade policies a huge issue.
Therefore, my biggest concern is the retaliatory tariffs, if another country raises tariffs in response to the Trump tariffs. We conduct business based on free trade, so in that sense a tariff war could land a 1-2 punch on us, and that's something I'm worried about.
Komatsu earns more than a quarter of its sales in North America, and Ogawa cites the danger of retaliatory tariffs by Canada as his biggest worry. But when firms like Komatsu look ahead to a Trump administration, they also see positives to set against the tariffs.
Obviously, energy policies will change from the Biden administration to the Trump administration, so I think shale gas and shale oil will make a big comeback. For example, the construction of gas pipelines that were suspended under the Biden administration will probably be resumed, so I think to some extent that could be seen as a positive for us.
With a month to go before Trump takes office, exporters around the world will be making similar calculations. Like Ogawa, many will be hoping they don't face a double hit in the US, tariffs on the way in and tariffs on the way out.
Volkswagen and Labour representatives have made progress in some areas of their long-running talks. That's according to a statement put out by the IG Metall union Thursday. It comes after around 50 hours of talks over German plant closures and pay cuts. But the union also warned the two sides were still apart on some matters. It said a longer interruption or termination of the fifth round of negotiations is possible. Talks have been ongoing since Monday in the hope of reaching a deal before Christmas. VW wants to prevent massive strikes that IG Metall has warned could begin as early as next year. Around 100,000 workers have already staged 2 separate strikes over the past month, the largest in the company's history. They protested against management plans for cuts and to potentially shut German plants for the first time. Sources say there is a strong desire by both sides to find common ground, but talks could still fail. Volkswagen declined to comment. Both sides remain far apart on key issues, including the potential for plant closures. Workers strongly oppose the measure, but VW believes it's needed to cut costs and respond to weaker demand in Europe. VW is also grappling with cheaper Chinese competitors and faces slower than expected adoption of electric vehicles. Bloomberg reported earlier Thursday that VW and Labour unions were nearing an agreement to restructure the VW brand without closing German factories. The report said management is willing to keep plants running and restore job security agreements until 2030. But that is in exchange for workers foregoing bonus
In a
payments.
move timed to put maximum pressure on the world's largest retailer, Amazon workers at 7 U.S. sites went on strike early on Thursday in the midst of the Christmas season holiday crush. The action is aimed at pressuring Amazon into contract talks with their union. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which represents about 10,000 workers at 10 of the firm's facilities, said warehouse staff in cities including New York, Atlanta, and San Francisco are taking part in the, quote, largest strike against Amazon. Now the strike threatens to disrupt operations at the busiest time of year for retailers. However, the e-commerce giant has multiple warehouses and smaller delivery depots that may allow it to get around the stoppage. The company said it does not expect any effects on its operations during one of the busiest times of the year. The union had given it a deadline of Sunday to begin negotiations, and workers had already voted to authorize a walkout. Teamsters officials said they would also be putting up picket lines at hundreds of Amazon sites nationwide.